was out there in the night sky, stared up at the stars in the hopes of seeing something out of the ordinary? Have you heard unexplainable noises coming from a vacant room, or watched a shadow cross the wall in front of you? Have you asked yourself if there is life after this one, or if you had life before? What about strange creatures that are mythical and elusive? Have you experienced deja vu or felt a prompting to leave because you felt you were in danger? If you have, you were on the fringe.
Welcome to On the Fringe. I'm Philip.
And I'm Mark.
I'm Pam.
And I'm Jess.
Yay!
Hey, I like you
all
guys
here.
We did it.
You all are here. You guys did a good job. Tonight's a different story. We're supposed to have Christy Campbell on tonight, the psychic medium. Wonderful person. Unfortunately, she was feeling under the weather. Jess told us backstage that she's wanting to power through it. And we're like, no, just 2 weeks. 2 weeks to get better, get healed up. So definitely, we're looking forward to having Christy on. Hope she gets to feeling better soon. But tonight we kind of, Jess came in a pinch and offered some suggestions, and we decided to run with glitches in the Matrix. So there's some interesting stuff. I mean, really looking into it. I think some people that I know have experienced some. I don't know that I personally have. Maybe not. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure I have and just discounted it. No, I didn't remember that right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
First things first, though, do us a favor, support this show from our affiliates. I want to run this real quick.
Hey, this is Mark with What If Tomorrow and What If Tomorrow on the Fringe. Be sure to check out our website, whatiftomorrowmedia.com, and look at our cool merch. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, posters, and more. Our affiliates are Duke Cannon, EMP Shield, My Patriot Supply, and Conflicted the Game. Or check out buymeacoffee.com/whatiftomorrow and buy us a coffee. And as always, be sure to like, comment, and share on both Facebook and YouTube. It helps get our content out to others and help our channel grow. Now on with the show.
Yeah, do us a favor, help us support the show. If you want to see us grow, we've got some things we're throwing around for both shows, ideas. We're trying to get more guests on. I'm in contact with a homesteader, a YouTuber. It's a homesteader. I haven't heard back from him, so we're playing it by ear, kind of see where that's going. But we definitely want to try to get more guests on this year. I think it'd be better for the show to get other perspectives. I mean, Pam and Jess, you guys have been with us long enough. People kind of know your thought processes and where you guys sit. And obviously they know where Mark and I sit. So let's get some new perspectives. So we want to try to get some more guests on, new ideas and new thoughts. Because that's the biggest thing that impresses me about the Paracon that you guys put on is you have so many different disciplines in the paranormal that they don't bicker, they don't fight. They kind of realize, and I think this kind of the common thinking coming around anyway, is it's all connected. I mean, you guys have heard us say that a million times on the show. Everything's connected. And at first, I think Mark and I kind of said it in jest. But the more we look into this
the
stuff,
first year we were there, I mean, it's all connected, and then it just became kind of a joke. And then it was like, wait, it is.
It really is.
Yeah. And it's crazy how it lines out. Hey, Enzo, good to see you back, man. He's ready
Notice,
for the fridge.
Welcome to the fridge. He's
In the fridge.
Yeah. Hope you guys are
And
doing well.
there's the fridge. So we're
That's
good.
right.
You're welcome.
Hopefully you guys are doing okay out by Wichita and, not as bad as we were this morning. This morning was kind of rough.
It was
and all that.
something else. I know this is not the preparedness show, but I do want to remind everybody, if you're going anywhere this time of year, have stuff with you. Have blankets, have water, have some sort of supplies, snacks, whatever, in case you get stuck in your car. This morning there were KDOT trucks in the ditch. There were semis. There were cars. I heard that from the ladies here that the police department in Bartlesville had vehicles in the ditch, and their tow truck service couldn't get out of their yard. So it was slick. So do pay attention to the weather and try to be prepared. And if you don't have to, if you can get out of going someplace, don't go.
Yep.
That's what I do. I just don't go.
Yeah,
That's my PSA for the night.
I didn't
For
go to
sure.
work today. I know, Mark, you didn't. They canceled school again tomorrow up here. So I mean, everything's closing. I mean, we haven't had a hard winter in a long time. But I think we're due. So
Yeah.
you can't drive on unless you drive a Zamboni. Yeah,
Yeah.
This
It's
is
true.
the slickest I've seen it in years.
it's been a long time. Man,
And there wasn't that much on the ground. It was such a even glaze that it was like driving on glass with,
Mhm.
some sort of lubricant on top of it.
Makes me think of Chevy Chase in Christmas Vacation when he sprays the spray on the
On the
on the sled.
That's my favorite scene in that movie. I love that movie. That's kind of a Christmas staple around here. So,
Oh, for sure.
I think the last time I remember it being this slick, I don't know. Shoot, I was a kid.
Mhm.
Growing up in Liberty, my brothers, so it had to be like 87, 88. And my brothers were both home on leave, and they ran to town and bought us a sled, my sister and I. And we wanted to go sledding so bad that we actually had to crawl up the hill to get to the top of it. But we did. Yeah, we made it happen. But kids, it didn't seem to affect you like it does us. Man, it's cold, and
No
maybe
kidding.
wisdom, I think, it plays into it somehow, some way. But knowing
We
better.
we lived out in the country, and I had older cousins that lived just next door to us, and they would get the farm truck and hook up an old hood to it with chains and drag us around down the old dirt
Oh, yeah.
roads. And we would end up in ditches full of water and frozen. I don't know how we survived.
My
any of that,
granddad
but we
used to
did.
drag us around on a tractor,
Yeah.
Yes.
car hood or something.
That was fun. It was
Yeah.
a good time.
I told the kids I was going to pull them behind the side by side.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I'm too scared to do that. So I'll get on with you. I don't care. Your mom can drive.
Woohoo.
No.
So now you guys know what's wrong with us.
Right.
I have hit my
Dumped in
head
the
a few too
Wet
many
ditch
times.
too many times. I remember getting back to the house and your jeans just being just frozen,
Yeah.
soaked,
Oh.
and just ice
Ha-
covered. And
Have an ice rash all over my
yes,
Yep.
those hives from being cold and wet.
Mhm. Oh yeah,
You
Yeah.
had to stand in front of the heater to thaw out.
yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good time.
Those were the good old days when we almost died of frostbite. It was great.
Right. You didn't care.
Nope.
So, Jess, I will let you kick this off since you brought it up to us. So a glitch in the
Okay.
Matrix. I mean, I don't know how to really describe it. I mean, I understand what it is. It's where
Okay.
you see deja vu, I guess could be considered a glitch. Things like that, things out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Things
I think-
appearing.
Yeah, I think the glitch in the Matrix is like a nice umbrella term for any oddity that's out of the ordinary that's not directly attributed to like a ghost, like a haunting type of situation. So we've got like you said, like deja vu. We have time slip anomalies, missing time, jots, just one of those things, disappearing, reappearing objects, even all the way up to like strange digital type situations happening in real life. Because if anybody's interested, you can actually go back on the What If Tomorrow page. We did we did one night on glitches in the Matrix. We've touched base on this before, but frankly, I think you could probably do 3 or 4 years worth of just glitch
You
in
could
the
probably
Matrix
do a whole
stories.
series on
Yeah.
glitches in the Matrix.
Exactly. They're widespread and insane. And I think tonight, so what we did was we had everybody gather up some really interesting stories that they found on the internet through the years and our own stories too. This isn't just something you read about on the internet. It happens to everybody. And if you're sitting there thinking right now to yourself, I've never had a glitch in the Matrix happen to me, by the time we're done tonight, you will have remembered at least one thing odd that happened to you. I promise. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
We have our worst critics will come to us and be like, well, this has never happened. And then you talk for 5 minutes and they're like, well, there was that one time.
Yes.
Right.
Same
There's
thing
always
with
that one
Right?
time.
hauntings or yeah, something odd.
Yeah. So where do you guys want to start? Is there like a type that you want to start with? Or I don't know what all you guys are bringing.
I just got a bunch of stories that I
That's
collected.
what I've got. There's just a bunch of stories on it.
Okay. Well, how about we do this? Mark, you go first and we'll just take turns pulling stories out.
That'll work.
All right. Here's one I found. Where did that go?
Enzo said he always notices
Yes.
the clock during sequential times, 4:56, 12:34, etc.
Yeah, I'm 11:11 girl.
I'm 444. These guys have seen that. We were at I'm sorry, I'm jumping in front of you, Mark.
No,
we were
that's fine.
at what was the name of the theater? Is it the Coleman in Miami? We'd all gone down there for a Dark Ozarks thing, and I had always told him, 444 is my number, and we were at Brahms, and my ticket was 444, and I was like, look, I'm serious. See you guys. It happens a lot.
All right. Well, I got one here about a woman who was sitting with her boyfriend on a couch. I'll just read it. This is from BuzzFeed. Damien, or I'm not even gonna. Adam and Evil, I guess, was the poster. A couple of years ago, my mother and her boyfriend were sitting at the table talking over coffee and cigarettes, just like any other day. Her phone rings, and she's shocked to see it displaying her boyfriend's face. They look each other bewildered, and she answers it. Hello, hi, who is this? It's me, Joe. Well, how's that? I'm looking at you sitting beside me. The phone call ended, and everybody was kind of freaked out. So she hits redial, and her boyfriend's phone rings.
That's weird.
Everybody was sitting there watching it happen.
Yeah.
So, and they recognized the voice.
That's alarming.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was his voice on there. It's like, okay.
Oh, that would freak me out. Yeah.
That was one of the freakier ones I found.
It's kind of weird that we do this because I was just talking to a guy at work last week. We were kind of talking about some kind of fringy things because he's kind of into it. But we're kind of talking Mandela a little bit, because he's kind of interested in it, unsure about it. He's kind of more unsurety than anything. But we were talking about, he said, I had something happen to me with my wife. They live up in Independence. And he said, we were driving by a horse ranch out by some apartments they used to work or live at. And they were driving by, him and his wife. And he said, the fence around this ranch was black. And he said, I don't remember this thing being black. And his wife's like, no, it's always been black. He's like, no, maybe maybe I just didn't realize it, something like that. Well, they said a couple of weeks later, they're going down the same road. Uh-oh, speaking through my webcam. Okay, give me 1 second. Yep. Okay, thank you.
All right, is that better?
Yeah,
yeah.
that's better.
Yeah, good. Anyway, he said a couple weeks later, they were going down the same road, and it said it's like out of nowhere. His wife's like, "Didn't that fence used to be white?" And he's like, "No, we just had this conversation like 2 weeks ago." She's
She
Oh
like,
my
finally caught up
goodness.
with him.
"Yeah, yeah." She's like, "No, it's always been black," or she thought it was
Or
always
you said
used to
it's
be
always been
white.
black. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know if she was screwing with him. I don't know if this was something that they
That's
misremembered
crazy.
together, or within a couple of weeks of each other, or what. It was kind of strange.
That's wild.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's
that's from somebody's personal experience that I spoke with, and I found it weird.
Hmm.
So
It is. I run into that stuff all the time in my life. I think it happens so often now. I don't even remember it all because it's
Mhm.
just so second place to me. I don't know. Do you have
Oh,
a
yeah,
story,
I mean-
Pam?
I do. I have worked at the library from it was 2014 to 2016, and then I came back in 2018, and I'm still there. What?
you froze for a little bit.
Oh, I did. Am I back?
yeah,
Either that or I did.
Oh. um and during this whole time there's a microwave there that has been there longer than I've been. So it's been there since before 2014. It moved with us from the old library to where we are now. And during the pandemic, so it was probably 2021-ish, late 2020, early 2021. I went to heat up my lunch and I was like, what the crap? There has never been, there was a 30-second button that you could just automatically hit. Otherwise, you had to type it in. And I'm like, okay, this has never been there before. And so I asked the other two, and they didn't recall it either. And it's so freaky because all of us would have used it the whole time, because I'm lazy. I don't want to punch in, a minute 30. I want to hit 30 seconds 3 times. And we would have used it the whole time had we known. So we were just talking about it the other day when I went to heat up, and I'm like, that still bothers me. And they're like, every time we use the microwave, we think of you. But yeah, there's a 30-second button on there now that none of us recall having ever been there before. So
Crazy.
weird. That's one
That
of
is
my
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
Speaking of things that have never been there before, so I'm going to tell a personal one, mainly because I'm literally sitting right where this happened at. Pam and Mark know this one. I don't know if Phil's heard this one, but this one it messed with my head so much. I actually called Pam right after it happened because I couldn't grasp the situation. It was just so dumbfounding to me. So I was literally sitting here, and anybody who doesn't know, this is my art studio. I'm in here right now because my heater runs in the house in the area where I usually podcast from, and it's just too flippin' loud. So I'm kind of tucked back in my studio. So I was sitting here one day, and I'm an assemblage artist. That's why you see all this junk behind me. And I keep a lot of stuff in jars. Now I only have 2 types of jars. I keep peanut butter jars because they're plastic and lightweight. And I also keep Prego spaghetti sauce jars. It's the sauce my family likes the best. And the jar lids fit nice and snug on them. And I just like the shape of them. They have a wide mouth on it. And I pulled down one of those Prego jars one day to empty some stuff out of it and dig through it and find some things that I wanted. I pulled it down with one hand, and I took the cap off and set the cap down, pulled all the stuff out that I wanted, picked the cap back up to put it back on, and the cap was like 3 sizes too big. And it was I didn't think anything of it at first. I was like, oh, so you automatically grab around because you're like, oh, I grabbed the wrong lid. And then I realized I haven't had any other jars down. And I looked at the lid, and it's a Prego jar lid, but it's for a size of a jar I've never bought in my entire life. I cleaned everything out. I looked on the floor. I looked all around my studio. I looked up above where I keep some of my jars at. There was no jar the size of this lid. And to this day, I have never found the lid. I have one jar sitting up there right now that has no lid on it.
Wow.
And I have a little lid that I've chucked off over to the side that doesn't fit, or a too large of a lid that doesn't fit anything. To this day, that jar lid has never come back. So literally from the time I took it off that jar and it fit just fine to the time that I set it down, it enlarged.
Wow.
I don't know. I called Pam freaking out. I was like,
Yes, she did.
tell me if I'm nuts.
Well,
you're
I
nuts,
mean,
Happened
but-
right in front of me. Yeah. Jar lid has never come back. It's insane. So
That is crazy.
well, that's all right. So am I. You still keep me.
You know, we were talking earlier too. That makes me think of the story that I have always told as a ghost story. At my friend's house, I was helping her remodel and was hanging wallpaper over paneling that she had. Well, it was the dark wood panel, so you can't always see, and there was a ton of nails in it. Can't always see them, you know. So I had to keep a hammer handy, and I would go, you know, up the ladder to start hanging the wallpaper and inevitably run into a nail. I'd have to stop, pull the nail, and keep going. And this happened. So I came back down to get my hammer, and the hammer was gone. And usually it hangs, I would hang it right on the, what are they called? The hinges of the ladder. I would just hang it on there. So I always knew where it was. Wasn't there, wasn't anywhere on the floor. So I hollered at my friend and was like, she was in the other room. And I was like, hey, did you come get the hammer? And she said, no, I didn't. And so she came and helped me look. We couldn't find it anywhere. And I had just used it. So we went out to her garage, got another hammer, came back in, and I went up the ladder, pulled the nail. She'd already gone in the other room by this time, pulled the nail, got back down the ladder and stepped on the original hammer. And it scared the crap out of me. And it's always scared me because I'm like, you know, if a ghost can pick up a hammer and move it like that, what the hell, you know? But for some reason, when I was looking at glitches today, something I ran across, the question was, do you have problems with things disappearing and reappearing? And it just jogged that memory for me. And I'm like, I wonder if that was more of a glitch than it was a ghost story that I've been telling all this time. And it kind of runs into that where things overlap. You know, one camp calls something one thing, and another camp will see it as a different
It
different
does kind
situation.
of seem that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, yeah. So I don't know, maybe, and that would have been back in like 91 or 92. That would have been a long time ago.
Yeah. Yep. That's
And that's back when we were all just ghost, you know, everything was ghost.
Yep. It's amazing to me how everything is thought of as different, but yet the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, depending on how you on your perspective.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's really weird.
yeah. When you get more information or look at things a different way, and it's like, what?
Right.
yeah, it makes you wonder, like, some of these people who think that they live in a haunted home, do they live in a haunted home or do they live in a spot that's very
Clicky?
thin
Yeah.
and they're bumping against another dimension or a parallel universe?
Yeah, another
and
set
stuff
of
is
them.
gently just kind of, yeah. I had read a story that reminds me of that. About, it was a simple story. This lady had her sunglasses on her head and she walked outside of a restaurant, and right in front of her and her husband, a set of glasses identical to hers, down to like the scratches on it, fell on the ground in front of her. And there was a couple walking their way that saw it happen. And the gentleman picked the glasses up and went to go hand them to her and said, I think you dropped your glasses, and looked up and saw that her glasses were on her head. That I thought the really interesting thing is like the first comment underneath the comments there was somebody said, so in like 5 years, you're going to be walking that same pathway and drop your glasses, only you won't find them.
Huh. Yeah.
It could happen.
Yeah. Enzo said when he
Wow.
was in the Air Force, he had several friends that remember him being on a deployment with them that he never went on.
Oh, that's
Ooh,
wild.
Yeah, that's crazy too. Yeah,
Huh.
That's interesting.
maybe you just drank a lot, Enzo, and don't remember the deployment. I've got a couple like that.
I mean,
Just blocked it out.
yeah, it sounds plausible.
I've seen, I didn't pull them, but I've seen stories that make me think of your sunglass story.
Hey, Christy.
Where, hey, Chris,
Hi, Christy.
where other people have, they have like a pair of tennis shoes, and then another set shows up that's exactly like it, scuffed up the same, just as old. And, you
Mhm.
know, they don't know where they came from. And now they have two sets of the same shoes.
Well, I was going to
Yeah.
ask, does that eventually? I wonder if that eventually disappears if they lose one of those copies, or if it just stays. That's
question.
what I
I
was
don't
kind of
know.
wondering.
It's a good
I have
question.
too big of a jar lid that's still hanging around.
And
so-
somewhere another Jess has a jar lid that's way too small for what she
Yeah.
has. And
That's
it
what I'm
ticked her
assuming.
off too.
Sorry, other me.
My grandmother
fault.
always claimed that stuff disappeared and reappeared because the little people from the other side were borrowing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's used to be very common. And see, there's always been that story of the little people, or, things that borrow things, the borrowers. As far as I looked back into things, there's always stories like that. So this is a situation that's been ongoing, probably back as far as history's been recorded.
Ever? Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we're just noticing it now. People aren't afraid to talk about it, for one thing.
Mhm.
But then with all the recording media and stuff, and then now I'm not saying that all of these things that you see that's weird. I heard a good one the other day. They were talking about Lilo and Stitch. But when I got to looking at it, it was because Disney actually changed the scene so that kids wouldn't climb in the dryer and
Mhm.
hide. There was nothing. I mean, so there's a lot of these that get misidentified too.
Mhm.
There's so many more that's like, I can't explain that.
Christy said she's sorry she wasn't able to join us tonight. She said she picked up the airport crap. See you in 2
Darn
weeks.
it.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
we
sure.
hope you get to
Feel
feeling better
better.
really soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We were just talking about that backstage. We've all been kind of sick, so we know. So just
There's
power
so
through
much
it,
stuff
and
going
then
on around.
There is.
yeah, we'll have her on. Everybody watching, see us in 2 weeks here, because Christy's a hoot and a half. We're gonna have a good
She
show
is.
with her.
Yep, it'd be great.
So
Always
yeah, it's
fun.
gonna be fun.
I am uber excited.
Yep. Awesome
Me
person.
too.
Awesome person. I've got one here that I've got. Said he just had a glitch in the Matrix today. Enzo said he's a hermit, so he don't get out to get sick. Right?
Smart.
He said he was doing a damage audit and an inventory audit on our fleet vehicles today. I did the damage audit first. I found a vehicle with significant damage and listed out details. This was among about 10 damaged vehicles inside of about 30 we have on our lot. Well, upon turning in the damage audit, I was told this vehicle was not on our lot. Befuddled, I went and checked, and it was not where it was. When I inspected it, I searched the whole lot, gone. We had no transports today, meaning the vehicle was never moved. We also checked the location history of it, and it had only been rented and returned out of one location about 20 minutes away. It's never been on our lot before. Here's where it gets creepy. I'm thinking, okay, I just had the unit number wrong. Nope, I pulled up previous inspections, and it had the same exact damage on it that I had written out. So how I inspected a vehicle properly that was not and had ever been on my lot.
That's crazy.
I mean, stuff like that happens all the time.
Yeah.
all the time.
Christy said, me three, she can't wait. She says, it sounds like a little old lady who smokes 3 packs right now.
Oh,
So
no.
attractive.
She got the deep voice going on. The
Hey.
gravel.
What you doing?
What was that? Michael Meyer in the old Saturday Night Live skits? Talk amongst yourselves and all
Oh.
that.
Preclamptic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he was with Dana Carvey doing the church
I think
lady.
so, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
That's funny stuff.
Yeah.
But it's weird. I mean, you got sunglasses, you got cars disappearing and or reappearing or whatever. It's just weird how. I mean, I think these experiences, in some aspect, I think lead to the simulation theory.
Mhm.
I got a picture for you.
Oh, it's weird.
Guy goes out and says, somebody just copied and pasted all the cars down the street.
Yeah.
Now I get to look in close up. They are not all the same model car, but they make
Still
all
fun.
the cars these days look the same. It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, think about all the times that you've set your keys down and they have flat disappeared, and you look and look and look, and they end up somewhere where you absolutely looked. 100%. I think
Oh, yeah.
everybody has
Mhm.
experienced something like that.
Yep.
But I don't pay too much attention to stuff like that because I've been caught looking for my phone while I was talking to somebody on it. So I mean, I can't really be trusted with that.
I'm guilty of that. Where I used to work, we had a scanner. You had to scan your badge to get in the door. And I would more than once walked up with my car keys in my hand and tried to use my fob to get in the door. So that's just being dingy. And so not everything is crazy, but
No.
it does happen.
Yeah.
You have another story, Pam?
Do I? Yeah.
Yeah. You're
Okay.
up.
So this is one, and it happened. I even have I pulled the date on it so we would know. It was October 5th of 2023. And our team had an investigation to go on, and everybody met at my house before we headed out. Mark, were you able to go to that one?
Which one?
It was over, I don't think you were. I think it was me and Mike and Jess. I'm pretty sure it was me, Mike, and Jess. I don't want to say where it was
Okay.
because it's one of those that was anonymous. But everybody met at my house to leave. We were going to take my vehicle, and I had an old friend from high school drop by with her daughter. And so they were here when everyone got here, and I was preoccupied a little bit with that. And I had laid my phone on the table, and our case file, I had laid it pretty close to the front door. So we're telling her goodbye. They all walk out with us. We get in my Jeep. She gets in her vehicle, and we take off. And just as I'm pulling out, I'm like, crap, I left the case file laying, in the house. So I backed up, and Mike got out, and he ran in my house and got it. Gets back in the car, and we're like maybe halfway to Coffeyville, and we're already running a little bit later than we wanted to be. And so I'm like, I'm going to grab my phone and plug it in so we have navigation and go ahead and plug the address in and everything. And I'm like, oh my God, my phone wasn't where I thought it was. I pulled my pocket inside out, wasn't in my pocket. And I was like, pretty aggravated about it, but we decided we'd survive because everybody else had iPhones too. So no, Mark, you weren't there because we all had our iPhones with us.
I remember this story now.
Yes. And so we get to Brahms and Coffeyville, and Mike ran in to use the bathroom, and we just went through the drive-through. And we're sitting there waiting to get our food, and I'm talking to Jess, and Mike gets there, but I'm too close to the building, so he's standing over talking to Jess through her window, and my phone beeps. And I was like, what the hell was that? So I'm looking to see if maybe it was just laying beside me somewhere, and it wasn't. It was in my freaking pocket that I had pulled inside out, and it was hot to boot. So we're like, what the hell? Did my phone port into my pocket? Did it, because it was not there.
Yeah.
And that was creepy. And that whole trip ended up being just a series.
The whole ride was an insane fever dream.
It was.
We couldn't ever get the Bluetooth to work correctly. We couldn't get the GPS to work correctly. Her GPS was telling us we were in a completely different place than what we were.
Yeah, it was saying that was what it was, Jess. It was saying that my phone was in Caney, but we were like almost in Chautauqua.
Yeah.
Well, we were in Chautauqua, Kansas, and almost to Oswego at that point. And it was saying it was still in Caney. And we were like, what the hell?
Yeah. And
Hmm.
my GPS was telling us that we were like 3 roads away from where we actually were. So we
Mhm.
couldn't trust my GPS either.
And then my high beams
And it
wouldn't
was,
stay on.
yeah.
Remember that? I
Yeah,
had
her
to
high
actually
beams
hold
wouldn't
the
stay
thing.
on.
In
It
my
was,
new
that whole
vehicle
trip
that,
was nutty.
yeah, and I've never had that
Yeah.
problem. They're on automatic. They go on and off like they're supposed to with no issues. That's the only time I've had that problem with them.
Wow.
Something else happened too. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah. And eerie feelings. We had to go through some dirt roads, some like way back dirt roads to get to where we were going.
Yes.
And there was areas where that was so thick with trees it blocked out what little bit of light there was.
Yes.
It was just a creepy, weird, we all felt strange, everything went wrong kind of drive. So
Yeah,
one
we
of
were
those
like
weird ones.
actually concerned and voicing, should we even continue? Should we just stop where we are and
Yeah.
turn around and go home because something's not right? But we
Wow.
kept going.
It was strange.
Yeah.
It was
It was an odd case too, but yeah, that was in October, so that wasn't that long ago.
Real quick, Christy says she always notices with the little people. You're talking about little people. She said that besides
Mhm.
missing items, you also get to drop things all the time, and time does tend to lag.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good point.
So that makes me question: is there something causing these? You know, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think
don't know.
it's a side dimension, interdimensional parallel universe.
Well, like you
type
said,
of
the veil is
situation.
thin.
Some type of interference for sure.
Yeah. And you could also go into the whole computer gameplay NPC
Yeah.
route too.
Yep.
So
Like I don't have any. Yeah, I got a hanger up here. Hey, Pam wasn't
That's
in here,
funny.
was she? She wasn't on that show, was she?
Oh, I was.
Oh,
I
were you on
was.
that show?
Yes.
Yeah,
We all
I
had
could
hangers
get
on
a
our heads.
hanger.
that's right.
I'm
We
sure
were
Chris
all
would go get me a hanger.
we were all picking up HBO. Although I think I just dated myself with that. Picking up HBO with the satellite.
That's
There you
funny.
go.
All right, so I found a creepy one. Actually, I'm going to tell 2 of them because they're kind of on the same thing here. Really creepy. They creeped me out when I found them, and I put them down here so I could tell them to you guys. So this dude was driving through Texas on his way to visit relatives. It's dead of night on a lone highway in the middle of nowhere. He hasn't passed a gas station in a while, and his tank was getting low. So he decided to fill up at the next available gas station. After a while, he rolls into a small town, and there's a lit up diner on the right and a local gas station on the left. All the lights are on, and cars are filling up, so he figures the place is open. It seems to be exceptionally busy for this time of night, but he really needs gas, so he decides to wait in line to fill up. There's only 2 cars ahead of him, so it shouldn't take long. At this point, his sister, who is in the back seat, wakes up. What's taking so long? It's been like 10 minutes and not one car has moved. Then all of a sudden, his sister blurts out, "None of the people are moving." And sure enough, the people waiting in the cars, the people filling up, the cashier, and the people all in the convenience store, none had moved since they pulled up to the station. His heart was racing at this point, but he pulled forward to get a little bit of a closer look. And sure enough, every single person at the gas station was as still as a mannequin.
Wow.
And they left.
I don't
That
blame
is
them. I
a
would too.
that is
Yeah.
a nightmare. Could you
Christy.
imagine?
That's Twilight Zone right there.
Yeah.
That is.
Christy said quantum
It
jumping
is.
or something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of makes me. That's kind of what my thoughts were. Is like, is it a quantum thing where it's like a video game or something like that that's lagging? You know, it takes forever for it to render or anything like that.
Or is
Yeah.
it an image
You
trapped in time?
Right.
It reminded me of Pam and I's story of the weird time slip and missing time, or added time, I should say, that we had out in the Sandhills.
Yeah.
And the hunter guy sitting in his truck that never moved for like the whole half hour we were out there. It kind of reminded me of that. But like right after I found that story, I found this story on a whole different site. It was literally the next thing I pulled up. So I figured that's serendipitous. Let's put this one down too. And I'm going to read this one straight from it too. So I was driving home on a stormy day and I see that a side road up to the local golf course is blocked off by these flashing barricade lights. I also see a Mercedes parked past the barricades with its hazards on. So I stop and walk up to the car to see if they need help because I'm an EMT. I shined my light in the back seat to see a man slumped over, apparently asleep. Thinking I've got a few drunks on my hands, I move up to the driver's window and rap on the glass and shine my light in. The driver is sitting bolt upright, unmoving, staring straight ahead. My window wrapping or light doesn't cause him to blink, flinch, or move. I look over and the passenger is slumped forward and on the dash. This begins to creep me out. I call down to the sheriff's station and request a code 2, which means no lights, no siren, unit up to my location to help me check on them because the doors are locked. While on the phone, I walk back to my truck to get my go bag. And as I'm on the phone with dispatch, she asks me to get a license number for the car, just as PG&E, the power company, cherry picker truck comes rumbling down from the closed road. I move to go around the truck to get the plate number, and the car was gone. I talked to
Wow.
the driver of the truck, and he said there was an 80-foot tree down across the road, and that he didn't think it'd be open for a day or so. So the question is, where the hell did the car go? Tree up one way, barricades down the other. It's kept me a bit unsettled when stopping at accidents and hazards since then.
Wow.
That is strange.
I've
So where'd
got
it
a
go?
story from a fellow who has an actual NPC.
Ooh, I think I found that one too. Tell it.
All right, this is on BuzzFeed by Living Good 99. He says, I'm quite the skeptical person, but this always has me at a loss. My girlfriend's family lives a little ways away, and so I'll drive us over to visit them without fail. And I mean, every single time when we drive back home, and for some reason, only when we leave the town to head back home, this man is out walking his dog at the exact same position. Now, sure, it could, of course, just be a routine and I'm having a timing coincidence, right? No, we're talking about it could be 3 p.m., it could be 11 p.m. He's always at the same corner exactly when we pass, as if he's spawning in. It's so odd. It's like seeing it replayed over and over again and always so consistent. We always mention it on the way back and check, and without fail, he's there. I play a lot of games, and I swear to you, if this was happening in the game, I'd be complaining about the lack of NPC variety.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I know we've talked about it before. What is the movie that had Jim Carrey in it where his whole life was scripted?
The Truman Show?
Yeah, The Truman
Yeah.
Show. That makes me think of that where they're, waiting in the wings. Okay, go, go, go. Here he comes, kind of thing.
Hmm.
That's freaky.
Yeah, that's a glitch if I've ever heard one. The same
Mhm.
dude in the same spot over and over and over.
No matter what
yeah,
time.
for sure. Going back to the sandhills you were just talking about, Christy said she was going to say the sandhill is creepy and time definitely gets messed with around there, or gets messed around with.
We had
That's-
Mike that's on our team, Christy. He just had a really strange experience just a couple of days ago. It was Friday, wasn't it? Friday
Yeah.
evening, coming home from work out in the sandhills that we don't know how to explain. So it's one that we're working on right now.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
New cryptid,
Mhm.
maybe.
Potential new cryptid, yeah.
I've got one. It's pretty long, but it's titled "Voices in the Wilderness." This is all on Thought Catalog. This guy says, "I'm from Finland, and that's also where these things I'm about to describe to you happened. This was some years ago, pre-smartphone / GPS era. It was the end of summer, and myself and two friends were on a camping trip way up in the north in Lapland. The mosquito season was over, and the weather was cooling down in anticipation of the coming fall. The three of us had packed our food and gear for a 10-day trek. The car we arrived in had been left at the parking lot of a visitor center. This happened within the premises of the Urho Kekkonen National Park, a 985 square mile stretch of wilderness near the Russian border. The terrain The terrain there varies greatly from treeless and semi-mountainous to dense forest of spruce and pine and dwarf birch. There are a lot of swamps. Seeing reindeer is not uncommon, and some nights you might hear wolves in the distance. You can run into a bear or a wolverine in this place, but of course, normally they avoid people. We mostly camped in a tent, but some nights we used shelters and simple huts provided for travelers free of charge. The trip had lasted 5 days. We were at the furthest of any kind of civilization we were going to be on that particular outing. Truly in the middle of nowhere. There really is nothing there. There are no villages, towns, or industry. The place is a national park after all. Seeing other hikers happen from time to time, you'd see some people in the distance maybe. Very rarely would you come face to face with anyone. So in the middle of our trip, we were camped in a small clearing. Woodland extending around us for a considerable distance in all directions. It was already dark. We had eaten our evening meal, and the three of us were jammed in our only tent. It was a bit cramped, but we fit. We took turns carrying it during the hikes. We were just exchanging some jokes and crude humor in the dark, like guys in their 20s do, about to go to sleep in our sleeping bags. When we quieted down, we began to hear it, talking, and the sound of machinery. Given our location, this was profoundly weird. We camped in a tent because there were no huts nearby. Maybe there was another camp somewhere near us. We couldn't quite make out what was being said, but it was a human voice, no doubt about it. But nothing really could explain the sound of heavy machinery. It sounded like an excavator or a tank, something big, powerful, and really not too far away. Combined with the sound of talking, we thought construction yard. But at that time of night, in an unpopulated, protected natural reserve, he said, we got out of our tent. It was cold and pitch black. The campfire had some coals still glowing. We took out our flashlights. My two buddies have always been a lot braver than me. The sound was clearly coming from the north, maybe half a kilometer away. We thought the construction might be going on behind a small hill some distance away. We could see no lights or anything. We still could not make out what was being said. The speaking like voice was monotonous, and it was impossible even to say what language is being used. Still sounded a lot like a person speaking, though. You may be aware of the sort of spooky phenomena of hearing a human voice in static. Maybe you've used a blow dryer and been sure someone's talking. Turn it off, and if it was just something the brain tried to interpret from steady hum. Maybe it was sort of like that. It was too hard to explain. The machinery like sound continued, not loud, but you could sort of make out the powerful engine, at times accelerating / adding power, at times at idle. My two friends resolved to go find out what was going on. We put our warm clothes back on, donned boots, and I sat next to the dying fire, adding some more wood to it. I would stay at camp while my buddies left to check on this mystery construction yard in the middle of nowhere in Lapland Woods. So there I sat. The guys took out their maps, took a compass heading, and left, and I could hear them make their way through the forest, see the light from their flashlights. Then they were gone. The weird sounds continued, unaltered. They were gone 15 minutes, then maybe 30. The better part of an hour. It was odd, judging by the volume of the sound. They should have reached it. Checked it out and been back already. I added more firewood and tried to make out what the person talking was saying, but it was too tinny and obscure. Obscure. The guys had been away for over 2 hours. I figured they had stayed for coffee with the construction guys or something. Then the sound stopped, just like that. It just ended, all at the same time. The engine sound and the voice both just quit. It was very silent. I waited for another 30 minutes, very worried now that something had happened, that maybe my friends were just lost. Should I go try to find them? I shouted their names several times and built the fire pretty big. I was scared shitless when suddenly I saw the flashlights of my friends. Apparently they were returning in a hurry. The guys got back to camp out of breath. They told me the following. They had followed the sound beyond the small ridge in the distance. There was nothing there, and it seemed like they were not getting any closer to the source of the sounds. They had to stop every now and then, be quiet, and listen to it to be able to walk towards it. They walked and stopped like this for some time, then realized they were not getting any closer. The sounds did not change in volume at all. They decided to go just a bit further several times, when suddenly the sound stopped like someone pressed a button on a recording. They realized they'd been going for a long time. They were in the middle of the dark woods alone. They reversed the heading and started back at a brisk pace. Eventually, they saw my big-ass fire from the top of a hill and found their way back. The weird thing is, we seem to think the sound stopped at different times. They had been gone 2.5 hours in total. They said the sound stopped at around 1 hour and 15 minutes mark after they left. Then they started to head back. Immediately, return trip taking a bit longer, even though they kept a good pace. They apparently wandered around a bit. For me, the sound stopped at the 2 hour mark just 30 minutes before they returned. We did not sleep that night. Nothing more happened on the trip, and we never found out what the weird construction yard sound was about. We returned to the park visitor center some 5 days later. We asked around, but no one knew of any ongoing construction taking place in the whole national park area. It's been bugging me ever since.
That's of all places. Don't follow sounds into the national
Right.
park.
You know, my
That's asking
conspiracy
for
brain
it.
just kicked in when I was hearing this. And it makes me wonder if there was a secret government project being built out in the woods.
Right. Right.
And the friends were told to bug off. If you say anything, we're going to shoot you.
Right. Actually, Christy is typing one out right now. She says she has a story about a roommate. Said it happened in Nowata, Oklahoma, about 16 years ago. She sent a roommate out to get us some lunch at the depot. 2 hours passed, and I was getting concerned. She didn't drive; she walked. The girl she was babysitting for came back and went to look for her. She was standing on the train tracks with the food, had no idea that 2 hours had passed, and was very disoriented.
Oh,
The thing
wow.
was, she was going the wrong way, and there were active trains on the tracks. Not sure where she went or what happened. Glad she's okay. Wow.
Yeah, that
Holy
one's kind of
cow.
weird. Yeah.
And Christy, that's the same area that I know you've told us about before, that you'll see a fire, and if you try to get to it, it just is always the same distance away from you and you can never reach it. That's an odd area out that way too.
I think I have a story someplace about a fire.
Cool.
All right. This one is from BuzzFeed from CG 1991. I don't really know if this belongs here, but it's such a weird but insignificant event. I want to share it. The family event today, and there were a few relatives I knew but hadn't seen a lot. While we sat away with the main celebrations with my partner and one of the kids, she was 9 and took a shine to us. I thought I could smell smoke. I didn't vocalize it. Didn't even look up from my phone, just thought it. The girl looked at me and said, "You're right. They're having a fire next door. You can see the smoke." Then she proceeded to point above the trees where there was smoke. My partner asked what she was on about, and she didn't reply. I later asked my partner if I'd spoken aloud about the fires, and she said no. I also shouted her name for like 10 minutes after and got no response. So less psychic and more glitch. Was also sober and don't believe in the paranormal.
Those are always the best ones that don't believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that tell you it's all bullshit. Then they have these crazy wild ass stories, and you go,
Yeah.
How do you not?
Yep.
Yeah. I love
I
that.
don't
They
believe,
give
I
you
don't
4 or
believe.
5
But there was
stories, and
this
they're like,
one
but it's
time.
not,
Well,
I don't
somebody
believe
could have
that.
slipped me some LSD and I didn't know it, and blah 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 blah.
I don't drink, but somebody roofied me.
Yeah, somebody
Yes.
roofied me, and I was just.
Yeah.
I may have had a schizophrenic episode. I don't know.
Right. I do. I have another one. And this is another one. And, we've talked about this before too. Sometimes when you get an interest in these things and you really start paying attention, you notice more. And it's not that it hadn't been happening before. It's just that you're actually
tuned
noticing it. Yeah, you're tuned into it now. And this one, it again involved me. It was August 17th of 2023. Me and the crew from Amok, we were headed up to Fort Wayne, Indiana. And we were almost there. We were on the outskirts of Fort Wayne, And at that point, the highway, it's divided into, there's 4 lanes going north, 4 lanes going south kind of thing. And so I was driving, and we were in the second lane from the left, and it was close to midnight, wasn't tired, was fine, didn't have any problems driving. And it was a very uneventful trip up to that point. And just out of the blue, this car with obviously no muffler on it, just right next to, it was very close to like where the driver's side behind me, Debbie was sitting behind me, and it was pretty close to almost exactly across from her. Just out of the blue, just bah, this really loud, car. And I jumped, and it scared Debbie. Debbie like threw her phone up in the air a little bit and grabbed it again because it scared her so bad. It was so close. Shauna was in the passenger seat, and she has a little hard of hearing, and she didn't catch it. But it scared me, scared Deb, and I was like, holy crap. And this little car goes beelining right beside us. And we're like, where did that car come from? And Debbie agreed. She didn't hear it. It was loud enough. We should have heard it a good quarter of a mile at the very furthest away. We should have heard it coming up on us rather than hear it just right beside us, just out of the blue that loud. So we were like, is that a time slip? What is that? That occurred that time, but there were no entrances into the highway right through there. It was, it was just a long stretch of road. Yeah, it was just so loud. I'm trying to see if I missed anything. I don't think I did. Yeah, Debbie almost dropped her phone though. And we told the other guys about it, and they were like, that is odd. And we were like, yeah, it's one of those things you're like, okay, it just happened. What do we do with this? But we both noticed this car taking off on ahead of us. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I've had
It's as
something
if
similar.
somebody, yeah, it's as if somebody picked the car up and just plopped it right down beside you.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we also thought, what if something picked us up and plopped us right down beside that car?
Well, and I've had situations like that where I know that there was nothing coming from either way. I pull out, and all of a sudden there's a car behind me. It's like,
Yep.
I would not have pulled out in front of that car.
No, and this was a straight stretch of road, and there were no entrances, especially coming off the left, because we were in the north lane, and there was a south lane running off to that side of us. So nothing would have just entered that way, and I hadn't. That's the first thing we thought of. Where did it come from? We hadn't just passed an entry point or anything. So, and there was another car, a lane or two, a little bit ahead of me off to the other side. So we weren't there by ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was weird.
I was going to a funeral in Franklin, Tennessee. It's been, I don't know, 2002, 3-ish. And we were going down I-40 in Knoxville. It was early in the morning, like 2 a.m, and nobody was on the road. Nobody. And our exit was coming up. So I was driving left lane. Now I was doing 65, 70, something like that. And check my mirrors. Nobody. I always look over my shoulder, especially when I'm in a city.
Yeah.
And I start to turn, and this car flies by me super high. I mean, probably twice my speed, probably doing 100. And I'm like, whoa, crap. It scared the crap out of me, obviously, but I'm like, there was nobody there. And I just chalked it up. Maybe he was driving so fast that I didn't see him or what, but it was a straight-ish stretch of road.
That reminds me of something else you say, and it came up on you like that. The Jeep that I have, it's got the little triangles on your side mirrors. So when something's in your blind spot, that triangle lights up yellow, and it did not light up yellow.
Right.
Didn't see it. I mean, it should have lit up when we heard that car, and it was not lit. Because I would have noticed it then, that it was coming up on us, if it's a quiet car. So like if the muffler just picked that moment to fall off or something, but no, it was not lit either.
And I always turn my head to check my blind spots and anything,
Yes,
especially, always. And I don't know where this car came from. And I,
Yeah.
I mean,
Crazy.
you reminded me of it just by your story, but
Yeah.
it freaked me out. I was like, what happened? I mean, I had my oldest son. I don't think, Garrett wasn't born yet. My second son, he wasn't born yet. Speaking of sons, I want to wish my son a happy birthday today. He's 9 today.
Happy birthday, Caleb.
Happy
Nice.
birthday.
Happy birthday,
But,
Big A.
Yep, he got a free day out of school, and
Just one
Sweet.
tomorrow
That is a
too.
good birthday.
Everybody
he gets one
celebrated.
tomorrow. Yeah, I know it.
Yeah,
It's
they
a
just
national
closed Katy
holiday.
too.
Yep.
They just closed
4-day
Katy
weekend.
schools too. So
Yeah.
I just got to notice.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I mean,
I have 4 interesting stories to do really quick. So I don't know about you all, but when I'm doing research for one of the podcasts or for just my own research, these little themes pop up for me. Like
Mhm.
it reminds me of like Pee-wee's Playhouse, like, what's the word of the day? And
Synchronicity.
today the word for me was cat. So
What
I
was
was
it?
trying to think of cat.
Cat.
Cats were my theme for the day, oddly enough. Because I was trying to think of some of my own personal stories that I could tell tonight. And a couple of them are cat related. And I was like, well, that's kind of funny. And I got up online and I was kind of perusing the different like Reddit boards and things like that, trying to find some interesting stories. And I found 2 more cat stories. And actually I found way more than that, but I wasn't gonna like haul them all in here for you to hear. But I picked a few of the more interesting ones. And I thought I'd just kind of tell them all right in a row here. They're not long or anything, but I just thought they were very interesting and scary. And I'm going to tell 2 of my personal ones. You all have heard these before, but I'm going to tell them again for everybody who hasn't heard them. So starting with a couple that I found online, a really quick one. I ran across this guy who had talked about when he was little, he had a Thomas the Tank Engine book. It had little fold outs in it where you could look like inside of buildings and things like that. And he said there was a section where you could open up a door and you could see inside of what was like a shed type of situation, had tools and things in it.
Mhm.
And it had a little black cat that sat on one of the shelves. And he said he remembered being little, it was a great game for him. He didn't so much like reading the book, but he loved opening it up to that page because it was always a guess whether that black cat was going to be in the shed that day or not.
wow.
That's cool. Oh my
Creepy.
gosh.
Yeah. Could you imagine that just being little and that being a private game you played because that cat wasn't always in the shed when it was supposed to be there?
Yeah, that's creepy.
That's like the portraits in Harry Potter,
Yeah.
in the castle where they
Yeah, are
sometimes
they
they're
gonna be in
there
their
and sometimes
portrait?
they're not. They can't
Exactly.
always be there. That's cool.
Yeah, another interesting one I found, and this one spooked me just a little bit. It kind of, I don't know why either. I've never had an experience like this, but it just freaked me out. So it said, once when I went with my grandmother to her friend's house, I was on the porch by myself with the grandmother's friend's cat. And the cat sat there and looked me right in the eyes and said the word meow. Now, it didn't sound like a cat meowing at
Meow.
all. It sounded very convincingly like a human carefully enunciating the word meow.
That's
2
cool.
syllables. In their most unthoroughly, unconvincing cat voice. Like someone intentionally doing a very poor impression of a cat, like as a joke. But it was perfectly in time with the movement of the cat's mouth, and there was no one else around. So it couldn't have been
That's
anything
cool.
but the cat saying it. But think about that. Wouldn't that freak you the hell out?
It's
Yeah.
like Salem on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Meow.
Yeah.
Meow.
Meow.
Alicia said Skinwalker.
Meow.
Meow.
Me.
Enzo said it was the cat named Schrodinger. For the-
It kind of reminded me of the alien story that kept saying owl. Owl.
Yeah.
Owl. Ow.
Ow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a hilarious
Makes me
story.
wonder.
The black
Yeah.
Enzo's talking about the black cat being in the tool shed, isn't he?
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
he's there,
Yeah.
sometimes you'll never know.
So I'm going to tell really quick 2 of my own personal like glitch in the matrix stories with cats. The first one happened, this has been about 10 years ago, I'm guessing somewhere around in there. Um, Anybody who's from our area knows Caney doesn't have a lot of places to shop. We're a little tiny town, and we have to go out of town for most of our groceries. And the closest place to us is Coffeyville, which is about 15 minutes away. I have made the trek to Coffeyville so many times, I could probably sleep and still get there. Um, and you have to go through a little town called Tyro on your way through there. And if you sneeze, you'll miss Tyro. It's that tiny. But one day I was headed off to get groceries, and I was heading through Tyro, and right in the middle of Tyro on the road was a dead cat. And I noticed it because it was literally, I had to move so my tire wouldn't hit it. You know, you don't want to hit it again. Gross. And I felt horrible because it had a collar on, so you knew it belonged to somebody. And you have like that moment of like, oh, somebody's lost their pet. And I was like, oh, okay. But you move on, you know, forget it. Move on with your day. I go into Coffeyville. I spend an hour and a half shopping, coming back through, same route. And right before I got to Tyro, I remembered, I was like, oh, that dead cat is there. And I was like, you know, and you kind of look for it on your way. I don't know if I'm messed up like that, but you look for it again. And there it was, laying right where I had left it at. And there was a semi coming on that side of the road, and it didn't look like it was going to move. And I was like, oh God, that semi is going to hit that cat just as I'm passing by.
Ugh.
You know, and I actually moved over a little bit just in case it did hit that cat. I didn't want cat on my car. We passed by. I cringed, you know, didn't know what was happening. And as I went past, I looked in my rearview mirror. You know, the gory side of me was like, what happened? Did it hit that cat?
Yeah. Did they
And
or
when I
didn't they?
looked in my rearview mirror, that cat was stood up in the middle of the road and was walking its way back to the side of the road.
I remember you telling me this story.
And I did
That's
like the triple
that's
take.
not disturbing at all.
No. I did the triple take, you know, in the mirror, you know, I was like trying to look around and stuff, and that freaking cat was walking itself.
But the
That cat was
came.
dead. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, well, maybe it was one of those weird cats that likes to sleep out in the middle of the road and everybody was just doing a great job of going around it. No, when I went around that cat, its head was smashed in. It was
Yeah.
dead. It was deader than a doornail. It was not in the happy land.
9
So-
lives.
That was the Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah.
The second story I'm going to tell, I've told before. I call it the demon cat, but it had a name.
I wondered if you were going to
So-
tell this one.
Yeah, I have to tell this story. It's the weirdest freaking thing, and I have no way to categorize it except for glitch in the matrix. Maybe?
Get it? Categorize.
Categorize it? Yeah.
That was
So-
punny.
When I was a teen, we lived out by my grandparents in rural Caney. We had barns and stuff, so we had barn cats. And like anybody who lives in a rural area, like Phil knows, you know, cats come and go. Cats will come in, live on your property for a month, live for a year, head off, you know, whatever. One day we had this cat come in. This is the weirdest looking cat. It was very dark, but very mottled colored. It was kind of frumpy looking, like not quite fat, but not thin. I don't know how to explain it. It was just an odd looking cat. And my mom kind of grew fond of him. He wasn't super, super friendly, but he wasn't standoffish either. He was just a barn cat. And my mom named him Pudge because he was kind of pudgy in the stomach area, which is also odd for a stray cat coming
Yeah.
in. Anywho, going along, he made himself quite at home on our properties and would skirt in and out of the barns. We never had a problem with him. But unfortunately, my mother lives right on a major highway, and she loses cats. It happens. They like to go back and forth between the different properties, and sometimes their luck is not with them. And one day, Mom found the cat dead on the side of the highway. And we were like, oh man, well, he was a good mouser, but oh well. We went and buried him because we didn't want coyotes coming up on the property. You know, some people like to just chuck him out down the pasture, but we were like, well, let's just get him out of the way. We chucked him in a hole, threw some dirt over him. A couple weeks later, this cat comes walking in on the property. Looks a whole lot like Pudge. A little bit grungier than the last time we saw him.
It's church.
And I was like, Mom, isn't that Pudge? And she was like, I think it is, but we're just going to go along with our day. And we did. I was like, okay, maybe, well, you know, in your head, you're trying to like figure it out. So you're like, okay, maybe it wasn't Pudge that got hit, you know, because he was pretty mangled. We were like, maybe it was the wrong cat. Maybe it was a lookalike cat. Maybe it was a cat that came out of his same batch. Maybe it was like a brother-sister cat to him, right? So we're like, whatever. Pudge is back. Great. I think about 6 months to a year after that, this cat gets hit. Pudge gets hit in the middle of the highway again. And this time it's dead of winter, and you can't bury cats in the dead of winter out here. The ground's freaking too hard. So we just drug him over and put him beside our barn. And you figure if a coyote doesn't get him, then we'll bury him when it gets warm enough. Cat goes missing. We never get to bury him because he literally just shows up missing. And we assumed a coyote got him or a raccoon. Raccoons around here will eat cats. Drug him off. Fine, whatever. A few months go by. In comes walking in this cat that looks a whole hell of a lot like Pudge. Only just a little bit more, you know,
He's looking rougher every time.
missing some fur, and he's a little patchy, but
Few brain
overall
cells.
okay, right?
Zombie
And we're
cat.
I know. And I told my mother, I was like, that's effing Pudge. That's that cat that was dead. I helped you drag it off the road. It was frozen solid. And she was like, we're just going to let it go. We're just going to let it go.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's what I
okay,
said,
but
Alicia. It's
I'm-
church off a pet cemetery.
yeah. I was like, I'm not getting near the cat, right? All goes well. Like a year passes and with this scroungy cat, and he's still just doing fine and acts like nothing ever happened. And he gets hit on the road for the third time. And I say third
think
time
he'd
because I
learn.
believe it's the same damn cat, right?
Good point. You would think he would learn.
This time he is destroyed. It clipped his head, and it broke his neck. And I was like, there's no coming back from what has happened here. And we pulled him off of the road, up into the lawn. And it just so happened that day we were getting ready to do a burn off. We have burn piles on our properties, and one had gotten full. It was time to burn it off. And at the time, Mom had two young men who were kind of her ranch hands for her, that she'd hired them on to help with around the property, kind of like handyman and, you know, whatever she needed. And she had told them to go over there and start that fire. And she said, you take that can of gasoline over there and you get that as hot as you can get it to go. And then I want you to take that cat over there and incinerate it. Right? Because I know in her head, she was thinking, this is how it's going to happen. You know, if there's no body, it can't come back.
Cremate him. Yep.
Right? So that's exactly what they did. They actually threw a mattress in there soaked in gasoline, threw the cat on top of it, and set that sucker on fire and
Dang.
watched the cat burn up, right? They were like, there ain't nothing left of that cat. It's gone. My mom was quite happy. I was content, right? All went well, right? Until a few months later, when this cat came rocking in on the property. Looked a whole lot like Pudge. Was missing half of its fur. It was good and burn off, but here he came. Yeah. As far as we know, so he
Time to
stuck
call an
around the
exorcist.
property. Yeah, he stuck around the property for another few months, and then we just didn't see him again. Which often happens with cats. Cats will walk off and go find a new place to hang out. But that is the legend of Pudge. Dude would not quit. Just kept coming back. Didn't seem evil. Nothing weird happened while he was around. It didn't seem like he was protecting us in any way. I'm just pretty damn sure that whatever he was, I don't think he was really a cat.
Must have been something. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's my
He
kitty
definitely ran
glitch
out of his
in the
9
Matrix.
lives.
Freakish thing. Every time that cat came walking in, it always happened when we were all around too. Like we had a reason to all be outside, and here he would come strolling up like
That is
demon
freaky.
cat.
Like,
I know.
Yeah.
yo,
That is freaky.
So,
where's my food bowl?
yeah.
Wow.
For all I know, that cat is living at somebody else's house right now, and that was like 25 years ago.
Mhm.
Probably more than that. Yeah, more than that. Closer to 30 years ago.
Guess who's going to
that
show up
cat
at
is
your
probably
back
still-
door tomorrow?
Right.
Oh, you just jinxed me? I'm going to get you, Bannon. If he shows up at my house, I'm loading him up and I'm going to put him in your house.
He's coming home with you.
Well,
Mhm.
both my
I know where you
cats are
live.
demonic anyway. I don't know who would win.
Yeah, so there's my cat part of the night.
Catastrophic.
Meow.
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 That's freaky.
Chris said, "Hey, wait."
He takes it back. He takes it back. I'm sure.
Right.
No.
Cat.
Man, I think that's a good spot to kind of tie it up, man. You can't beat it.
How do you top that?
How do you
Yeah,
top
you
the
can't
demon
beat it.
cat?
Yep.
Because
Oh my
it does
gosh.
seem kind of glitch in the matrix.
It does.
Matrixy.
I mean,
Yeah.
he may just got mad at you for just trying to get rid of him. You know, I mean,
We weren't trying to get rid of him. He'd literally just died, you know? I mean, the first time he got a proper burial, and the second time he would have gotten a burial if he just waited around long enough and the ground had thawed. We could have done it
And
then.
then you got to.
And the third time was just his own doing because he was just kept coming back. We're going to burn you. But apparently that didn't work either.
That's the freaky part, was that his fur was all singed up and burned up.
See,
When he did
like
come
my
back.
mom accused the two boys. She was like, "You freaking told me you burnt that cat. Why did you lie?"
Hmm.
And they were like, honest to God, we threw that cat on there. We set that cat on fire. We watched that cat burn. There was like, that cat was not coming back from that. You could have thrown an alive cat on there and it wouldn't have come back from that. So I don't know.
wow.
Insanity.
You just got the last 4 lives.
Yeah.
They get
Right?
9.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I still don't know. My mom to this day doesn't think it was a cat. She doesn't
Yeah.
know what it was, but she was like, that wasn't a cat. I don't know what that was.
Hmm. Maybe it was some type of fae that was masquerading as a cat. Who knows?
I don't know. Like, it makes you wonder, was it like something in a cat suit? And
Yeah.
it just kept grabbing the suit again and
Ew.
But-
That's so gross.
That's not disturbing at all. I've got to get up and work in the morning. You can't keep me up all night with this crap.
Well, you guys be careful if you go into work tomorrow because they've already closed Caney schools and Coffeeville's closed, Independence is closed, Tyro's
Yeah.
closed.
I'm going to get up, thaw my car out, check the streets, and see what it's like. If
Yeah.
I have to go in late, I will.
Yeah. Well, be careful.
My daughter
Yep.
called me and threatened to beat me with an inch of my life this morning if I went in.
Yeah, it was really bad this morning.
It was super bad this morning. I about fell on my ass just trying to get to my car.
Goodness.
So
Hey, Sylvia.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
I don't know how to top that.
Anywho.
I mean, even the stories that
oh,
were
I
online.
can. Oh gosh, I found so many fantastic stories. I found a story. Oh my gosh, this is so weird. So this lady was making jelly and she was canning it, and she said she had a whole bunch of empty canning jars in her pantry, and she pulled them all out and she was filling them full, and then she ran on to a whole bunch of them that suddenly didn't have lids. Kind of reminds me of my story a little bit. The
right.
lids were just missing. So she just stopped at her last one that had a lid, and she took all the rest of the jars that had no lids and she put them back into the pantry and went to bed. And when she got up in the morning, she opened up the pantry, and all of those jars that didn't have lids suddenly did have their lids screwed on tight, and each one of them had one dead spider in it.
I did read.
Ew.
Yeah, I did read that.
Ew.
Yeah.
That's freaky.
Yeah.
Nope.
Ew.
Nope. No.
Yeah, that reminds me, not that, but just kind of, I know we've talked about it before about the ladies that were on a road trip or something and they stopped at a restaurant, bar, or whatever, and they were all there. It's kind of like your guys' missing house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They went in, had dinner, and then they noticed a painting or something and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah, it was
I'm
that's
not
like
doing the
Jim
story
Carroll's
justice.
favorite story.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a couple of friends and they were on a little road trip and they stopped at a roadside bar
Yeah.
to stop in for a drink. And they went in and they said that it felt like it was something from a decade before. Like everybody was just dressed slightly wrong, like it was from a time beforehand. And they said they were sitting there just enjoying themselves. And then they realized that the booth they were sitting at, there was a big painting on the wall behind them, like a mural. And it was a mural of the inside of the bar they were sitting in. And when they looked at it, they realized that the scene they were looking at in the mural was the scene they were looking at in front of them. And they were painted into the mural too. And everybody in it was wearing the same exact clothes as the people in the mural. And the people sitting at their booth that was painted there was them in their clothing, and freaked out and left.
Oh, that's
and
weird.
Then, yeah, they tried
Right.
they went on their way. And when they came back through, they tried to stop there again because they wanted to see it. And the bar was gone.
Yeah.
It was just an empty building.
And had been closed for a long time.
Yeah. If any of y'all want to hear that story in full, it originally aired on Jim Harold's Campfire, I think like
Yeah.
5 or so years ago.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, so since we're on YouTube, if you go onto YouTube and look up Jim Harold's Campfire, he has a whole bunch of lives and video streams that he ran, and he did a live interview with that lady, so you get to hear more
Oh,
detail.
wow.
Oh, that's cool.
And you
I
get to
didn't know
kind of
that.
meet her. And there's more to that story than what she originally told on the campfire because you only get so much time. So if y'all are interested in that story, go over to Jim Harold's Campfire on YouTube and watch the stream of it. It's really, really interesting. And the lady
It
comes
is.
across as, I mean, she's very authentic. I can't imagine that you would come up with this kind of story and be able to retell it the way she does. So, yeah.
Some
Well,
of
it's just
them
one of
super
those things.
interesting.
The truth is often stranger than fiction. Most
Mhm.
people, if they're going to make up a story, they're going to make up something that, would be totally believable.
Mhm.
They're not going to make something up so outlandish that you look at them and go like, what?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There
Yeah.
was I can't remember where it occurred. I want to say it was in the Appalachian Mountains, maybe. I can't remember. I'll have to look it up. But it's just from a week or two ago where there was a child that went missing and was gone for like 3 or 4 days and turned up perfect condition, clothes were clean and everything, and was out in weather like this, for that
Wow.
long a period of time, and just showed up again. And he's young. He's like 3 or 4.
It's like
Appalachians
missing
are
411
weird.
stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's some crazy stuff that goes on out there
There
in the
is.
Appalachians.
Hmm.
Well, Enzo would know. I mean,
Yeah. That's his stomping grounds, isn't it?
yep. But yeah, it's there's some weird crap. They say, don't talk about it or nothing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just if you saw something you didn't,
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those
Hmm.
things. I mean, it's crazy out there.
Yep.
No, I don't really have much more. I don't know if you guys do or not.
Oh, I have tons, but it just depends on when you want to stop it.
I told mine already.
We had a bunch of the same sites open, I could tell.
Yeah, I
So,
think so.
Yeah. Let's see here. Well, we could finish off. I have another personal one that I could tell.
Yeah, go for it.
And Pam was kind of privy. I've told this one before, but it's just so freaking weird. I'm gonna tell it again because I still can't comprehend it. It's still so like when this incident happened, it kind of gave me this. I can only explain it as like a brain fog.
Ribbit.
Ribbit.
It's so muddled. Like my thinking was so muddled while it was happening. When I think back about it now, I get that same muddled feeling.
Like something messed with
and
your
I-
memory a little bit.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the Oz effect, like Jenny
Mhm.
Randall's talked about, like that Oz effect that happens.
Mhm.
So you've all heard this, but I'm gonna tell it again. So there was a time that I had a job in Independence, Kansas, and it's about 20 minutes straight north up from us. It's very close to where Phil lives. So anybody who's from the area or has been in the area kind of gets the gist. Highway 75 comes straight out of Caney and goes straight up into Independence. And that's the road that I was on. It was a Sunday morning and it was very, very early. So there was nobody on the road with me. I was all by myself. I was very much awake. I had already been awake for a number of hours that morning because I couldn't sleep overnight. And I remember that morning specifically, the sun was just coming up and it was gorgeous that morning, the sun coming up. Sometimes in Kansas, when the sun comes up, it just hits that light just right. And it's just beautiful watching that sun come up. And I was really enjoying watching the sun come up. And I had my tunes playing on my radio. And I was just kind of jamming out and having a good morning. And I'm about 4 or 5 minutes outside of Caney, coming up towards a little tiny town called Havana. Havana's not actually on 75, it's just off of it, but we all know that marker for it to get off. And this road I have been on all my life. It's one of those roads I could probably sleep on, like I was talking about before, like on the way to Coffeyville. And all of a sudden, I started to feel strange. Not ill, just kind of strange. And started kind of taking note of what was going on around me. And all of a sudden, I realized I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And I'm looking around and I realize that I'm past where I was supposed to have started at. I was well past Havana, even though that's the next place I should have come up on. And just as I'm thinking, holy cow, how did I get past this area? Because I'm now in this curvy spot of the road. I'm suddenly back before I thought about the fact that I should be coming up on Havana. And I remember I about drove off the road because it was unsettling. I was in the middle of a curve. I was turning in a curve in the road. And suddenly I was on a straight part again. So I'm like, straightening back up. And I'm looking around and wondering what the heck's going on. And this had happened in fall. So the grass here had already kind of turned brown. The trees had lost most of their leaves. And all of a sudden I realized the grass was very green. The trees had full leaves. And everything that should have been on the side of the road, the houses and the trees and all of these landmarks that I've known all my life, are starting to come up too fast. Even though I'm not driving fast, I'm not moving fast. They're coming up faster than what they should, as if they've all been condensed up really tight. And I'm freaking out looking at all this happening. And I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? And I have that brain fog happening. Like I can't quite grasp. I I can't comprehend what's happening around me. And before I know it, I've rushed up to that same spot that I had popped out on before, too far ahead. And everything kind of stretched back out in front of me and calmed right back down again. And then I felt fine. And I was like, what the hell? And I couldn't even drive because I was so like befuddled. Like I
Like a
couldn't
hiccup.
function. Yeah. I literally pulled over on the side of the road, which could have caused an accident. I'm so glad nobody was behind me because I didn't even look first to see if there's someone behind me. I just slammed on my brakes and got over on the side of the road as fast as I could and just sat there. And I literally unbuckled and got out of my seat and got up on my knees and looked around my car to see if what was behind me was correct. And it was. Everything around me was just perfectly fine. Nobody else on the road but me. And I got on my phone and retold the story to myself as fast as I could, and got back on the road because I didn't want to be late to work. And then I realized, I was like, oh my God, am I going to be late to work? Because I just took that route twice. And I looked at the time and it was perfectly on time as if I had not done any of that. And in fact, when I got to Walmart, because that's where I was headed, I usually have about 10 minutes that I would set in the parking lot before I went in. I actually had 15 minutes that day. So I got there a touch early. And I ended up calling Pam to tell her what had happened because I needed somebody else to know about it before I started my day because I just knew it was going to just bug the crap out of me.
Yep.
But like I said, to this day, when I think about, like, I put myself back into that day and what happened that morning, I still get that, like, I can't quite grasp anything that was happening around me. I get this, I just call it a fog. I feel like I'm in a fog when I think
Well,
about
and
it.
we've talked about that before. When things happen, your brain can't process it, so it either didn't happen or it won't remember everything correctly.
Yeah. If it has nothing
Yeah.
But
to gauge it
If-
against.
if it doesn't have, yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, it's one of the weirdest things that's ever happened to me. And it happened to me while I was alone, which is very odd. I always
That's
have
almost
people around
like
me, so
that would go really well with like simulation theory, where
Yeah.
we're stuck in a simulation and maybe that was like, the computer crashed and you had a little bit of a reboot
Mhm.
there, right in the middle of everything. It's weird.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The weird thing is one of the things that bugs me the most about the entire scenario, and I don't know why this is the part that bugs me. It's not, I mean, it does bug me that I ended up going back and everything was compressed and I was going through it so fast. The thing that uh, irritates me is everything went to that like super duper green. Like the grass was like
Yes, that is
saturated
weird.
green and the trees were saturated green and everything was just very condensed color. And then when I snapped out of it at the end, I got through that all so fast. Um, I don't recall it switching back to the normal colors.
Mhm.
Like there's not, you'd think there'd been like an on-off switch where it went from super colors to super not colors to the dull full colors. But I don't have that memory. I just remember it being, super bright, and then I remember pulling over the side of the road.
Like everything's Technicolor all of a sudden and
Yeah, it was like Dorothy walking into Oz or something.
yeah,
I don't know,
interesting.
but
that is different.
It's a good
and
one.
I don't know why
A head
that
scratcher.
one little thing really bugs me. I don't know. It's weird.
Mhm. What do you do with that? There's no
Exactly.
explanation.
Other stuff that happens to you, you can kind of learn from it, or you can be like, "Oh, that's very odd. I'm going to put that back in my little, my
It'll
little
go in this
memories of,
file. Yeah.
yeah, this is this kind of thing, and this is this kind of. I don't know what to do with that."
It's the weird
And a lot of
file.
people, yeah, a lot of people have given me different ideas. They were like, maybe you were abducted. And I was like, I don't
If you
know.
were, they got you right back to the right time before work.
But why did everything compress and turn vivid colors?
I don't
See?
know. It's
And
so weird.
that, some people are like, well, maybe you slip dimensions, or maybe you hit a parallel universe, or maybe you touched up to something. And
Maybe you met up with Men in
That would
Black
be
and it
kind
was
of my
Will
thought.
Smith, and
you think he's
how
that
he tries to
mean?
give him a good backstory so they have a good memory
Yeah.
instead of just nothing. Maybe he tried to help you out and really screwed it up.
Maybe that's what happened. But yeah, I can leave it there on that story. Now you all can share in the weirdness that is my life.
I mean, you know me, so it's got to
It
be
is an
pretty weird.
oddball.
Well, we've all had weird experiences. So
Mhm.
Yep.
It's a good one though. Head scratcher
Yep.
for sure.
mhm.
All right.
Anywho,
I think
we can.
I would venture to say, for having weird experiences, I think we've probably had more than what we remember.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
I think you're probably right.
You know,
Well, it's like I
Um,
said earlier. It's stuff happens to me so often now that I don't think about it anymore.
right?
Yeah.
Like I don't think I catalog away what all's happened to me. So much stuff happens that you just let it go after a while. Because I think I'd probably go insane if I sat there and really thought about every little detail.
We had talked, I don't remember how long ago it was, Jess, probably about 6 months ago. We talked about maybe keeping a journal, and every time, like in your case, the 1111 pops up, in mine, it's the 444. Every time it pops up, to make a note of it. And I started keeping just on my phone in notes when it would pop up. I would make a note of the date and time and then what was happening to see if it was significant. It happened so often, I quit tracking it because it was
That's what
just
happened to me.
all the time. So
I
I
know.
have
I
a
did the same
whole
thing. Yeah.
whole little file of them, and it started making me uncomfortable, so I stopped tracking it again.
You about killed yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's what
How-
happened to me. I started an actual hardback journal.
Yeah.
Because I had read somewhere on the internet, of course, it was like, if you want to come to terms or grasp with, what's going on in your life better when it comes to these strange, like metaphysical things and stuff like that, they were like, keep a journal every time it happens. Maybe you can find a pattern in it that's kind of point you in a direction. And I was like, how interesting, what bad could come of it. If I don't learn anything, then I've just wasted a little bit of time on a notebook. But gosh, by like the end of the first week of having it,
Yeah.
I was exhausted. You had to have it with you all the time, and I had to start paying attention to every little thing that happened and try to get it written down, and it just got to be too much. And I realized my life is too weird to put down in a book. I'm not going to do it because I'm going to freak myself out, and I'm going to see something I don't want to see in the pages. So I'm just going to let it go. So that book is collecting dust somewhere in this house. I don't even know where it is.
Here, I'll show you this.
I gave up.
So I started keeping track in October. Wait, where did the date go? October 23rd, 2023. So when I started keeping track. And I would take a screenshot of what I was seeing at the time. This is October, and then when I get to the top, I'll tell you when I stopped. December 30th, 2023 is the last one and actually before that, it had been a while. So where did it go back to? Well, maybe it wasn't. Okay. So between October 23rd and December 30th, this is every picture that you see, that's a different situation where that was coming up.
Yeah.
It's a lot. That's a lot for like 2 months.
It's too much. It's too much. So, yeah. For those of you at home who want to try it, go for it, but it'll weird you out and you'll have to stop after a while.
You'll become John Keel, and
yeah, you'll start to kill yourself, and you have to step away again.
Yeah.
We ran into that a few times with different things.
As investigators, Phil's heard us talk about this. He's not so much on the investigating side like we are, but we have just learned, especially the three of us here, me and Pam and Mark, we take more of a deep dive into things than a couple of our other people in our group. We're the we're the researchers. We're the ones that'll take the deep dive after the initial, happening happens. Like, we look into it. And so much stuff happens and so many synchronicities happen. And once you dip your toe into something, 30 other things come up and those connect to 30 other things. And before you know it, we're in the bushes.
Mhm.
And we have just learned that you have to compartmentalize your life, that research and the study on this is over here and your normal life is right here.
Yep.
And over here is this kind of research for this thing over here, and none shall the three touch kind of a situation. Because when you open that up, I've done it before to them. There's a couple of times where I took a break from the investigating group
Yeah.
and from the meetings and said, I have to step away because I can't define those parts of my life anymore. It's all bleeding into itself. And I was going nuts.
Yeah.
I was waking up in the morning to go get a cup of coffee and seeing stuff in my house that shouldn't be there. And synchronicities would happen and it would connect up. I would sit there and have an odd thought in my head and then turn my TV on. And that's exactly what somebody was saying as I turned it on. I freaked my husband out for one whole day. We went out for the day and I had songs stuck in my head all day. I was just like beep bop into the song in my head and I'd say a few words out loud and then think, oh, I should turn the radio on because Mike doesn't want to hear me sing these songs. And I click the radio on and the song would be playing in the exact same spot in the same song that I was just singing. And it just got to the point where he didn't want to turn the radio on for the rest of the day. So don't John Keel yourself, because that's exactly what I was doing. So we've all learned to do this. You compartmentalize and you don't let those bump into each other because you'll just go nuts.
Yeah, you got to take a break.
Yes, for sure.
I found more so with the other show that there's times that I've got to check out because I'm trying to pay attention to everything and understand
Yeah.
it. And you got to back away and take a breath. I mean, you have to.
Absolutely. Or you'll just go nuts.
Yep.
Well, I mean, and there's been so many times where we've planned to do a show and talked about it and done our research. And the same week we do the show that we've planned on for a week, somebody else comes out with the exact same show.
Yeah.
Like,
Seen that many times.
Mhm.
Like we're ahead of the curve thinking about it and talking about it, and bam, somebody else even bigger,
Mhm.
a radio personality or somebody on YouTube is talking about it. And yeah, definitely. I can understand that.
Mhm.
But-
Yeah. So if you want to deep dive into that kind of stuff and just let it take you over, go to town. But we warned you. It gets messy.
You do have to we had to
Sure.
step away from the whole situation in the Sandhills. We had to step completely away from it for quite a while because it was concerning. It was
Mhm.
scary. We didn't know what to do about it. We didn't know what it was or who to even talk to about it. And we had to step away. And the crazy part is when you step away from something like that, you can leave it for even up like a year, maybe probably longer. But when you go back and pick it back up again, synchronicities will pick back up again, and it's kind of like it was just sitting there waiting on you to come back and, pick the interest up again.
I'll still be here when
Exactly.
you come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
It was
really
like,
weird.
oh, hey, I didn't forget you.
Yeah.
It's like
do
a
this.
D&D character that you rolled, and you're going to come back and the character sheet's still there, They're there to
Yeah.
play, but yeah, it's weird.
Uh-huh. Or more concerning than not, it says hello to you in some fashion to welcome you back, which almost always seems to happen. We're like, oh, okay, it's welcoming us back.
We're going to do this again.
So
Yep.
it's sentient. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which is scary because what is paying attention? Obviously, things are,
the world we
We're
live in.
watching you all
So-
right now.
We're in a fishbowl.
Principalities and power.
Freaky stuff. Freaky
Yep.
deaky.
So now that we've weirded everyone out,
Weirded ourselves out again. Nah.
Hey, don't forget, everybody. A week from Wednesday, the girls have Border Town Strange first episode.
Yeah, our
Coming
first
up.
show.
So
What time?
excited. 7:00.
7
7
Central.
Have
o'clock.
a little housewarming for you girls.
Yep.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah.
It'll be a
All
good
get
time.
together to welcome you. It's nothing new. You guys do great. I have no worries about you guys.
Crossing all our fingers and toes and eyes and
Yep. No, you guys will do great. No worries. I mean, you guys will be a lot better than Mark and I. You guys
Yeah.
are doing this, so you guys got practice.
Don't jinx us. Don't jinx us, Night.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
Right? Yeah, Alicia said she had the song thing happen to her too. Tim and her and her sister and her boyfriend were all in the car. I had a song stuck in my head and started singing it out loud. My sister asked me why I was singing it, and it was like, it's on the radio right now on such and such radio station. They turned the radio and switched to the station. I said, and the song I was singing playing, everyone just stopped and stared at me. No idea how I knew it was on.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Been there.
Yeah, don't forget about Border Town Strange. The next episode for us, let's see, will be the 5th
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
February, and Christy will be on then. So come hang out for
Yay.
sure.
Yay.
For sure, come hang out with us
Yes.
that night. Christy is such an awesome person, and she'll
She
blow your
is.
mind.
She is. And
She's
she
great.
said she has some interesting predictions for the next year.
Cool.
Oh, nice.
So
Cool. Excited. It'll be
yeah.
fun.
I'm looking
Um,
forward to that.
And right now, this is probably going to be, we planned on running this show on both What If Tomorrow and on the Fringe on YouTube until the end of the month. This is the last show of the month. So if you haven't, please go like or you go subscribe to On the Fringe. That way you can catch our live episodes over there. I may play Christy on there because she is such a fun person. I may run both, but do us a favor. We're getting ready to switch. Go over to On the Fringe if you want to catch these shows on that channel, because they're going to stop being played on What If Tomorrow. What If Tomorrow is solely going to be preparedness, things like that. On the Fringe is going to be on, Fringe stuff. We want to do that to kind of straighten out the algorithm, hopefully get us some more viewers and all that good stuff. So if you haven't already, please go like and subscribe over on the Fringe. These are live streaming over there now. But please, it's going to be going permanently next month. Did I miss anything else?
I don't think so.
Nope.
All right. Well, everybody, we
Oh.
appreciate you hanging out. Yeah, what's up?
Follow Night Acres.
Yeah, the
Oh,
Night
yeah,
Acres.
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
My wife's not here to remind me. Yeah.
There you go.
For the Night Acres is my wife and I's YouTube channel. It kind of runs through and shows you what we're doing out here on our place, our animals, gardening, all that stuff. We haven't done anything recently. My wife puts a lot more shorts up with the animals and all that, but we're gearing up and we're going to start producing more content for that channel as well. So yeah, definitely do us a favor, go over there and like it as well. We're growing slowly, but we're growing.
Yay.
So it's a plus.
That's awesome.
All right. But with that being said, everybody, we appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with us in the chat, and we'll see you guys next episode.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Bye.